My name is Grace. I'm 33 years old, and I have always believed that showing up for family meant everything. Birthdays, holidays, late night calls, I was there. I kept the traditions alive when others forgot. I hosted Christmas dinners in my small but cozy home. I made room when there was none. That is why, when I saw the group photo on social media, my entire family smiling in front of a snow-covered cabin in Colorado, I could not move. I stared at it, heart pounding, waiting for some caption to explain why I was not there. But the caption only made it worse. Annual family Christmas trip could not imagine the holidays without these people. Without these people. Without me. I scrolled through the comments. My mother had replied with heart emojis. My younger sister Emily had tagged everyone except me. My father was holding hot cocoa next to the fireplace I had once picked out in a brochure for a trip we never took because they said it was too expensive. No one had told me. No invitation, not even a lie. Just exclusion. I had taken care of Emily when she lost her job. Let her and her husband move into my home rent-free for 3 months, then discounted for 6 more. I watched their dog, babysat their kids, and skipped my own vacation to pay for their car repairs. I was not looking for applause. I just thought that was what family did. But apparently, family only means something when it is convenient for them. I picked up my phone, hands trembling, and texted my mother, "Did you forget to invite me?" The reply came after 10 minutes. "We thought you were too busy with work. Plus, you always make things complicated." That was it. No apology, no concern. Just a tidy dismissal of years of loyalty. The worst part was not the betrayal. It was realizing they had likely planned this for months. Behind my back. Over dinners I probably cooked. I stood there, phone in hand, and felt something inside me change. This time, I was not going to let it go. This time, there would be consequences. And it began with remembering exactly what I had given them so I could take it all back. I stood in the middle of my living room, staring at the very couch where Emily had cried about being homeless. The same couch where I let her nap after feeding her dinner. The same floor where her kids spilled juice, and I said nothing because family forgives. And now I was not even worth a phone call. A courtesy. Not even a lie to keep me pacified. That was the kind of respect I had earned for a year of sacrifice. I opened the closet where I had stored their winter coats, the ones they could not afford before last Christmas. I saw the one I had bought Emily hanging there, tags still on. She had told me she would return it and get something cheaper. She never did. It was not about the money. It was about the lies that always followed her gratitude. I remembered how her husband, Trevor, had used my garage as his personal storage unit for months, then told his friends I was too uptight when I finally asked him to move the junk. It hit me then, they never respected me. They just used me because I never said no. I walked into the guest room, the one they had occupied for nearly a year. The bed I bought for them was still there, but the framed photo of us on the dresser was turned face down. That tiny gesture said everything. They had erased me long before the trip to Colorado. I sat down and wrote out every expense I had covered. Rent deferments, groceries, power bills, car repair, babysitting. The total was over $14,000. I stared at that number, my chest tight, my jaw locked. That money could have gone to my savings, my business, my peace. Instead, it had bought me silence and betrayal. And then I saw it. A group chat labeled Family Trip Planning. It had been created 3 months ago. I was not in it, but I saw the name on Trevor's iPad left unlocked on the kitchen counter. He had logged into his messages. I clicked it. The first message from Emily read, "Grace will ruin the vibe. Do not tell her. We will say it was last minute." They all agreed. My own mother replied, "She takes everything too seriously. Let her sit this one out." I stood there, frozen fists clenched. Then I took a deep breath. Fine. They did not want me. I would give them exactly what they wanted, distance, but not the kind they expected. I was not going to cry. I was going to plan, the same way they did. Except this time, I would be the one pulling strings. If you have ever sacrificed for family and been thrown aside like you never mattered, share your story below. And subscribe for more. You are not alone, your voice matters here. Let them hear it. Let them feel it. Let them see us rise. The next morning, I walked into the kitchen to find Emily and Trevor laughing over pancakes I bought in the house I paid for, acting like nothing had happened. My mother had just posted another photo from their trip, this time with a caption, "Nothing beats a real family Christmas." My phone buzzed, comments pouring in from cousins, family, friends, people who had known me my whole life. Not a single tag. Not a single mention. Trevor looked up and said, "You're up early. We were just talking about how peaceful Colorado was." He grinned like a man proud of a secret he had no guilt carrying. Emily barely looked up from her coffee. "Oh, Grace," she said with a smirk. "You saw the photos, right? It was just a quick getaway, nothing personal." The sheer gall of it, standing in my home, eating my food, lying straight to my face like I was stupid, made my skin burn. I leaned against the counter and said quietly, but clearly, "You planned that trip for months. Without me. And all of you agreed to lie." Emily blinked, then sipped her coffee slowly. "Grace, you always take things too far. That's why we needed a break. Honestly, you should be thanking us. We gave you space." Space. They had invaded my home, used me like a hotel manager and a bank, then gave me space by cutting me out of my own family. My mother called later that day, her tone falsely sweet. "Grace, honey, I hope you're not making a big deal out of this. We all needed to unwind. You know how intense you can be." I did not yell. I did not cry. I simply said, "Thank you for finally being honest about how little I mean to all of you." Then I hung up. That night, I made my decision. They would not just leave quietly when their lease ended. I would make sure they remembered exactly who I was. I started documenting everything. Every time they missed a payment. Every time they left the heat running all day while they were gone. Every item broken and never replaced. Every lie. Trevor left his laptop open again. I took photos of text threads. One showed him laughing about how Grace is too spineless to ever kick us out. I smiled, because he had no idea who he was dealing with anymore. They had all underestimated me. They thought my silence was weakness, but it was calculation, patience, precision. And now it was my turn. No more kindness, no more waiting. This time I would not be their doormat. I would be their reminder. Because sometimes revenge is not about shouting. It is about letting them bury themselves and making sure the world sees it happen. On the day they were supposed to leave for their trip, I came home early. The driveway was packed: my parents' SUV, my aunt's rental car, even my cousin's truck. At first, I thought maybe someone had gotten hurt, or there was some emergency. But when I stepped through the front door, I was hit with the smell of baked ham, the clinking of champagne flutes, and laughter, familiar laughter. My living room was lit up with string lights and filled with people. People, my family. Every single one of them had gathered for a send-off party before their last-minute trip to Colorado. And I had not even been invited. They were in my home, using my decorations, my furniture, eating food from my refrigerator, toasting to a vacation that I was deliberately excluded from. I stood frozen in the doorway like a ghost at my own funeral. My cousin Ava caught my eye first. Her smile faltered. Then Emily turned and went pale. "Grace," she said too quickly, too loudly. "You were not supposed to be home yet." Trevor jumped up like he had just seen the IRS walk in. "We were just having a quick little get-together," he said, already trying to close the laptop that had Spotify blasting from my speaker system. "We were going to clean up." "Were you?" I asked, stepping inside, my voice so calm it made the room go quiet. I scanned the room. My mother was wearing the scarf I gave her 2 Christmases ago, the one she said was too scratchy. My father held a glass of the wine I had stocked just a week before. And none of them had the decency to look ashamed. "I see you found my house comfortable enough to party in before abandoning it again," I said. "How thoughtful." My mother blinked, her smile strained. "Grace, you're overreacting. It was just a send-off. You always make things so dramatic." Dramatic! That word echoed like a slap. For years they had dismissed my emotions with that word. Any hurt dramatic. Any boundaries controlling. Any truth bitter. They wanted me quiet, obedient, useful. Well, that grace was gone. "You all have 30 minutes to leave." I said evenly. Take what is yours and get out. My father stepped forward. Honey, come on, do not do this. I looked him dead in the eye. You all already did this. I did not raise my voice. I did not cry. But I did walk over, unplug the speaker, close the laptop, and hold the front door open. They stared at me stunned. For once, they were speechless. As they shuffled out, some grabbing coats, others avoiding my eyes, I knew this would not be the end of it. But it was the beginning of something else the moment they realized I was no longer their safety net. I was the storm they created, and now they would feel it. They left with forced smiles and mumbled excuses, but the moment that door clicked shut behind them, I locked it, not just physically, but symbolically. No more access, no more free ride. I changed the locks that same night. First thing in the morning, I called a lawyer. No more verbal agreements, no more family trust. From now on, everything would be in writing. If they wanted to treat me like a stranger, then I would respond like one legally. By noon, I had eviction papers drafted and served. 30 days. That was all they had left in my home. I sent the notice by certified mail, then taped a copy to the guest room door. I expected rage. I expected insults. What I did not expect was how quickly the campaign against me would begin. That night, Emily posted a picture of herself crying in my driveway. The caption read, "Kicked out days before Christmas." I never thought my own sister would do this to me while I'm pregnant. The comments came fast. Friends I barely remembered from high school called me a monster. Extended family members who had not called in years suddenly had plenty to say. How could you do this to your blood? You used to be so kind, Grace. What happened to you? What happened to me? I woke up. That was what happened. Then came the voicemails. Tearful from my mother. Angry from my father. Mocking from Trevor. My aunt even left me a long message accusing me of ruining the family and airing dirty laundry. But none of them mentioned the party in my house. None of them mentioned the Colorado trip. None of them asked how I felt. They only cared about the narrative. Emily doubled down with a photo of her and Trevor in a hotel captioned, "Trying to find peace after betrayal." Betrayal, I let them live in my home for a year. Paid their bills. Cooked their meals. Swallowed their disrespect. And when I stood up for myself, I was the villain. It infuriated me how easily they rewrote the story. But what burned most was how many people believed it. No one reached out to ask for my side. No one asked what drove me to take legal action. They just assumed I snapped, that I was bitter, cold, ruthless. So I decided to embrace it. If they wanted to paint me as cruel, I would show them what cruelty really looked like, controlled, strategic, and undeniable. I began compiling everything, text messages, receipts, video footage from the party, screenshots of their social posts mocking me before I found out about the trip. I would not scream. I would not beg. I would show the truth. And when it all came crashing down, I would not flinch. Because sometimes you have to let them destroy your name before you build a new one, stronger, louder, and untouchable. The smear campaign intensified like wildfire. By the end of the week, Emily had crafted an entire saga around her victimhood. She posted old photos of us as children, with captions like, "I wish the sister I loved still existed." One picture showed her holding her baby bump, falsely exaggerated, and the caption read, "Trying to protect my child from cruelty." It was deliberate, manipulative, and it worked. Comments flooded in. How could your own sister do this to you while you're pregnant? Family is supposed to protect you. She must be jealous. Jealous of what her freeloading husband, her unpaid bills, her two-faced smile. What none of them knew, what Emily never mentioned, was that she was not even pregnant. I had seen the tests. We had talked about her fertility struggles. I had taken her to 2 appointments. But now she used that narrative like a shield, knowing people would never question a tearful mother-to-be. Even Trevor joined in. He wrote a long post titled, "What Grace Took From Us," detailing exaggerated stories of sleepless nights on a cold floor, being treated like animals, and begging me for help that I supposedly denied. The comments were filled with outrage directed entirely at me, but I was not surprised. I knew how easily people believe what they want to hear. What stung was how many relatives, Even ones I had supported financially joined the chorus. My cousin Melissa messaged me, "I don't know what's going on, but this is not like you." Not like me, I had been the family's backup plan for years. But the moment I stopped being convenient, I became a monster in their eyes. I knew I needed to respond, but not emotionally. I was done defending myself to people who never bothered to ask for my truth. Instead, I gathered everything: digital trails, phone logs, screenshots, recordings. I hired a public relations consultant, not to clear my name, but to shine a light on theirs. I prepared a series of posts each, with dates, receipts, and evidence. I was not going to lash out. I was going to narrate, calmly, factually, and I would let their own words reveal who they were. The first post I released was a screenshot of Emily's group text: "Grace will ruin the vibe. Don't tell her. She'll get over it." I attached a photo of the Colorado cabin's booking receipt with her name on it, dated 3 months prior. I ended the post with one line: "I got over it. But you're about to feel it." The internet turned. Slowly at first. Then, sharply. People began asking questions. "Wait, didn't she let you live there rent-free? Why leave her out if she did so much for you?" The tide shifted. Quietly, but definitively. They thought they were burning my reputation to the ground. What they did not realize was I was the one holding the match, and I was just getting started. When the tide began turning, they panicked. Emily deleted over a dozen posts within hours. Trevor tried to lock down his accounts, but not before screenshots of his smug texts and group chat comments had already been shared across platforms. The truth had teeth, and it bit hard. My inbox, once a graveyard of guilt-tripping messages, was suddenly filled with apologies. People I had not heard from in years suddenly remembered my generosity. My cousin Melissa sent a message: "Grace, I am so sorry. I had no idea." But I did not respond. Because now it was not about forgiveness. It was about consequence. They had weaponized lies against me. Now I was using truth like a scalpel. My second post was a video compilation. Audio of Emily mocking me while in my house. A recording of Trevor saying, "Grace is good for one thing paying," paired with text receipts, utility bills, proof of the eviction timeline, and a still shot of the party they threw behind my back. I ended the video with a clip of myself calm and composed. "This is what happens when you mistake silence for weakness." It went viral. Within 24 hours, people who once attacked me were now tagging me in support. This is the real betrayal. Emily and Trevor owe Grace more than an apology; they owe her years. The story spread beyond my circle. Strangers were defending me, sharing their own stories, commenting things like I went through the same thing with my sister. Stay strong. The betrayal stories were everywhere. My inbox was overflowing with solidarity. And that was when the letters started arriving. Trevor's employer received complaints. He was called in for a review. Turns out, lying about your housing situation and publicly disparaging your landlord, especially when that landlord is your sister, does not sit well with corporate ethics departments. Emily, who had just started interviewing for a remote admin role, was denied offers once employers saw her public meltdown. Consequences were catching up. And it was not because I yelled. It was because I documented. Precisely. Thoroughly. Quietly. One evening, I received an email from my mother. No subject line, just, "Can we talk inside?" She wrote, "Maybe we all made some mistakes. Let's not let the internet ruin this family. Not the betrayal, not the lies, not the exclusion or manipulation, but the internet." That was her concern. I stared at the message, feeling absolutely nothing. There was a time when I would have cried, when I would have jumped at the chance to fix things. But now I saw it for what it was: damage control. They were not sorry. They were just exposed. And as the messages kept rolling in and the public support grew, I realized something powerful. I did not need their approval anymore. I did not need to explain my worth. The truth had already done that for me, and I was just getting started with what they thought they had destroyed. They thought the worst was over, that public sympathy would die down, that people would get bored. But what they did not realize was, this was never about attention. This was about accountability. I had spent years being the one who cleaned up after everyone made excuses for them, and kept peace at the cost of my own dignity. Now I was simply letting the truth breathe, and it was suffocating them. After the second video, I received a message from Trevor's former coworker. He told me Trevor had bragged for months about how dumb Grace is letting us live rent-free like she owes us. He even said I was lucky to have them around, because I was boring and bitter, and had no real family of her own. That was the final crack in my tolerance. I shared that message, anonymized the source, and paired it with a photo of the receipt where I paid for Emily's emergency dental procedure last year, something they never thanked me for, something they told everyone they paid out of pocket. Then I launched my final wave. Not rage, not drama, just documentation. A spreadsheet. Cold, clean, dated. Every dollar I spent. Every favor I granted. Every errand I ran. Annotated with quotes, screenshots, and timestamps. I uploaded it to a personal blog and titled the post, "When Boundaries Are Betrayed." No rants, no insults, just facts. And once again, the internet responded. More betrayal stories flooded my inbox. Women and men who had been gaslit by siblings, used by in-laws, discarded by parents. "You gave us the words we never knew how to say. This made me walk away from my toxic brother. Thank you for showing that it's okay to stop being the nice one." I was not alone. I never was. I had just been convinced that my silence was strength, when in reality, my voice was the power they feared most. But what stung them more than exposure was my success. Because during the chaos, I had quietly rebuilt. I had started offering consultations to others dealing with family boundary violations. I had recorded a podcast episode about emotional labor and financial exploitation. It hit the charts within a week. I did not need to scream into the void anymore. I had built a platform where people listened. Trevor and Emily, they moved out, tails tucked. My lawyer ensured they did not leave with so much as a towel that was not theirs. The silence that followed their exit was not peace, it was justice. I changed the locks again, not because I feared them returning, but because I was starting over. Not as a victim, not even as a survivor, but as a woman who turned betrayal into a blueprint. And somehow, even with all the scars, I felt freer than I had in years. People always say blood is thicker than water, but they never mention that sometimes it's the very people who share your blood that cut the deepest. After Emily and Trevor moved out, after the locks changed, and the last trace of them was scrubbed from my house, I expected to feel victorious. I thought the silence would taste like peace, but what I felt was something more complicated: freedom laced with grief. Not grief for them, but for the illusion I clung to for too long. The fantasy that family meant loyalty, that being the helper, the fixer, the quiet supporter, would one day earn me love and respect. It never did. What it earned me was betrayal, manipulation, and being framed as the villain when I finally said enough. My mother still sends texts, mostly guilt-laced attempts to reunite the family. My father sent a card on my birthday, unsigned, but I knew the handwriting. It was always neat, like his excuses. But I did not respond. Not because I am bitter, because I am done accepting scraps. I spent my whole life giving grace to people who would not give me the time of day unless they needed something. And when I finally reclaimed my voice, they called it cruelty. When I drew a line, they accused me of dividing the family. But I did not divide it. I just stopped pretending. And somehow that was my crime. I look at the woman I used to be, apologizing for things that were never my fault, shrinking to make others comfortable, staying silent to keep the peace, and I mourn her. But I do not want her back. That version of Grace was beloved by people who thrived on her silence. This version, she is feared by people who can no longer control her. I have learned that boundaries are not walls, they are doors. And sometimes you have to close those doors permanently, even on people who share your last name. Especially them. Now every time I step into my home, it feels like mine. Not a shelter for the ungrateful, not a stage for fake family photos, but a sanctuary for truth, for healing, for real love, whether it comes from friends, neighbors, or even strangers online who saw the truth and stood beside me. So no, I do not regret the exposure. I do not regret the public fallout. I do not even regret the pain. because from it, I built a life on my own terms. No manipulation, no pretending, just clarity. And if you are listening to this thinking, that could be me, let me say this, it can be. You do not owe anyone your silence. You do not owe anyone your home, your money, your peace. Protect yourself even if it means walking away from people you once called family. Because real family does not make you beg to be included. They do not punish you for your strength. They honor it. If you have ever been betrayed by your own blood and finally found the strength to say no, share your story below. You are not alone. And your voice. It matters more than you think.